Hey, yes, I think it's so much different on the phone, Michelle. So welcome. We are, well, I don't even know what day it is. It doesn't matter. It's Monday, right? Yes, it's Monday. And we're talking all about Oracle and Tarot cards today. I have my little collection here to show you. I'm hoping I have time to kind of quickly show you some of them. And if not, I can always do that another time. But basically, I'm just going to run through kind of what I have learned and my perspective on Oracle and Tarot cards. You will find different things from different people. So just because I say something doesn't mean it's like everyone does it the same way. I'll try to say when I do it differently than I think most people, or if there's different ways to do it. The main thing to remember is you are intuitive. So if I say something and you're like, I don't really want to do it that way, and you have a different thought of how you want to do it, follow that. Just because it's different than me does not make it wrong. So, and that goes with everything, right? And I think a lot of times, especially, I think in any community, it's like, okay, this is how it's done. These are the rules. But the fun part is there's no rules. You're in charge. You get to pick how you want to do it. And yeah, so to me, Oracle cards are basically like little cards of wisdom. So yeah, they all are different. So as you can see, so all different. Oracle cards can have any number of cards in the set. There is no rule. They can be about anything. They can have pictures of anything. There's nothing that says like it's a rule to be an Oracle card. So like when you see pretty much anything that's not tarot is really an Oracle card. So if you see people just pulling cards, and most of what you see is probably Oracle cards. Tarot cards, you can see the difference. Tarot cards are specific. So there's like a certain number of cards in the deck, There's certain signs. They have certain meanings. There's a lot more rules to tarot. However, you can read tarot cards intuitively. So if you join, say, a tarot group, there will probably be a lot of people in there who are very rigid, which is not good or bad, but is very rigid in how they read their tarot cards. If you go to a tarot reader, they're probably reading them in a very specific way. So like the Two of Cups or whatever it is always kind of means the same thing. There are tons of tarot decks. So really it's just whatever you're called to. I'm just going to show you these first. This is like the tarot, the Rider, what is it called? Rider-Waite tarot deck. It's like the original, like most tarot cards are based off this deck. So I got this one because I wanted to learn using like an original deck. And they're kind of like, I want to say they're kind of like darker kind of looking. They're not all of them, but like the colors are like not bright and pretty, I guess. So I got this one at first, and then in the back is just kind of like, there you go, like that. I got this one at first and didn't really, it kind of gave me like a weird feeling. Honor that if that happens. So some decks might just give you a weird feeling. It kind of like weirded me out, which to me, it like, I don't want to say I was afraid of it, but it just gave me a weird vibe. So I was like, okay, that's not my deck. But I really wanted to learn on like an original deck. So then I figured out, or I Googled or something, there are so many versions of the Rider-Waite, whatever, tarot deck. So this one is the Centennial Edition. And I think it's just so much like prettier, like calmer. The colors are just like, they're more pretty. The back is more pretty. So it's like whatever you're drawn to. They make tarot decks like literally with anything. I think there could be like a Garfield tarot deck inspired. There's some really like ones that look to me scary, but if that's your vibe, that's totally what you can go for. So just know if you're into tarot or want to be into tarot, there's a lot more rules. There's a lot more learning. You can read it intuitively. I'm going to have to link it after. There's a YouTube guy who did how to read it intuitively, like tarot cards. And it's basically just like you look at it like a story, which could be for any cards. You don't have to know like Two of Cups means it's going to be about emotion. It's going to be about this, blah, blah, blah. You can if you want. Like, there's so much to learn there. But just looking at it like a story, like what's happening through it, and just knowing there are so many. If you want like a traditional one, the tarot weight is where you want to, I would start. But no, there's so many versions of this. So you don't have to get just like the basic one that I got first. You can get, there's so many. So I wanted to say that. There are two other sort of tarot ones that I have, but they're not like typical tarot ones. So this one I use all the time. The pictures are also a lot prettier. And this does not follow the same rules of like a traditional tarot deck. It doesn't have like your cups, your swords, like everything. They're more like pretty, and these you can read a lot more intuitively. They do all have guidebooks, which is awesome, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a little bit. But I personally love I'll say this again later, but when I pull a card, I like to look at it first, like what I think it means. I like to look at it, what I think it means in terms of what situation. And then I like to read the guidebook, because sometimes you're going to read the guidebook and you're going to be like, that is not at all, like that doesn't resonate at all. Which just means maybe you have to look at the picture more or just shuffle again. And then I bought this one a long time ago. This is another tarot deck that's not like a real traditional one. This is a good teaching lesson, because when I first got this, I was so excited. I was just learning kind of about like angels and things. And I was like, oh, I want to get an angel card deck. And I started using it, and I got that same just like yucky feeling when I was using them. And so I put them away until today. And I looked at it and I was like, oh, I kind of like that picture on the front, which is probably what drew it to me in the first place. And then I asked, I use my pendulum a lot. I'll probably be talking about that a few times. I have a course coming up with this, but, and I asked my pendulum, like, which is asking my guides or my higher self, like, is this more for me now? And I got a yes, and it felt good when I pulled a card. So also sometimes your decks, it's kind of like relationships with people. Like you kind of have a relationship with your decks where sometimes you're not going to want to pull cards from it or use it for a few months, weeks, days, years. And then you might come back to it and find it's really helpful. Like I know people have said they'll use a certain deck for like a good period of their life, and then they'll be ready to kind of move on. So something to think about. So those are my only kind of tarot decks. All my other ones are oracle cards. I personally love oracle cards probably best just because they're so, I don't know the word. They're so easy to connect with. They're really, you pick them out, look at them, and you can even just look at the picture. You can look at the words. You don't have to know like all these rules about them. So it's really easy to connect with. I want to make sure I'm not forgetting anything. I have my little notes over here. Okay, why use them? And feel free, if I'm talking about something and you're like, hold on, I'm wondering this, just type it in the chat. I can see that here. I should make sure that I'm looking at the chat. Okay, yeah. So why would you want to use them? So I started using oracle cards first. This is my first one from a bunch of years ago. And then I didn't really use them for a few years, and then I just got back into it. But my big reason for getting back into it was I really wanted a way to connect with my intuition. I saw a lot of people that were really like connecting with their intuition in ways they were really trusting. And I was not like trusting, I think, my intuition so much, or just my higher self or my path or anything. So I was like, well, maybe if I get into cards, it'll kind of be like a physical, like it's in your face. Like you can't deny the message or the intuition. It's like right there. So like maybe it'll be a really good way for me to kind of connect with that other part of myself. And it did. And they're awesome. So I like to use them for messages in the morning. I use them a lot. So what I like to do, I'll show you how I shuffle too. But like I said, everyone's going to do it differently. But I personally love to pull them in the morning and just say, what am I meant to see today? Or what message is meant for me today? What is going on with me today? So I like using them for like the present moment. So guidance on the present moment, guidance on what am I going through? Like, why am I feeling like this? What guidance can you show me about fill in the blank? And they usually don't lie. And if you feel like they're lying, it's probably just something that you're resisting. And we all do that. So I took a course by Lindsay Mack. Lindsay Mack, she has a podcast. If you are into tarot at all or want to be, I would totally look up her podcast. I can write that down later too. Her name is Lindsay Mack. And I love her perspective on tarot. She's not like future telling. She's, it's not, none of it is like doom and gloom. Her whole perspective is, the course I took by her is called Tarot for What Is. And it's all about like using your cards for the moment you're in, and how every card can bring you medicine. So it's not always easy. Like, and I think she says this too, right? When you're a kid or even as an adult, you might have to take medicine sometimes, right? And sometimes it tastes really good. Like, what's the Advil that has like the candy coating? Like, it tastes so good. And then there's medicine that's just like absolutely disgusting, and you have to like put honey with it or whatever. That's the same with these cards, right? They're not always easy to swallow. Like sometimes it's like a truth that just keeps hitting. Like, for example, I don't know if I can find it, but so in tarot, there's a card that's it's called the Tower, and it basically just means like things need to get burned down to get built up again, which happens all the time in life, right? Like you're going through something, and before you can really move on, you have things that you have to let go. In this deck, it's like, here it is, the lightning bolt, just so you have some image while I'm talking. This lightning bolt one. In normal tarot, it's like a tower, and there's people like jumping out of it with like a lightning bolt. But this one is like the lightning bolt. Basically, like you need that to burn down so you can regrow, whatever. So if you don't know, I still have like a coaching group that I run, but I was really into like Beachbody coaching for a good number of years. And when I got this deck, I was still really into Beachbody coaching, and I was like, okay, this is my path. This is what I'm doing. And every time I would pull cards, this was the only deck I was using at the time. Every time I would pull cards, lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. Because I was always asking about my coaching business. I'm like, what do I need to do better? What's guidance about my coaching business? How can I help people better? How just whatever. And I was just like, I was obsessed in a good way, but whatever. This was just coming up. And I'm like, no, I don't want to see this. I want to see like things are going to be great. And like, I don't know, keep helping people. Like this one, right? Community. It's all like, oh, it's so nice. Find your community. Like this is a card I wanted to see. And I kept getting the stupid lightning bolt. And then eventually I was like, maybe Beachbody coaching isn't my path. But like, if I didn't have these, I don't know if I ever would have asked myself that question. And now it's still a part of me. I still do the workouts and I still drink the shakes, but I'm realizing like that was not my like intended path. And at first I was fighting against it. And then, you know what happened when I stopped fighting against it? This card stopped coming up. And then this card started coming up. It's like you're in between two worlds. So it's basically you're being pulled in like, it's usually like you're being pulled in a spiritual world sense, and you're being pulled into a reality. Every time I asked about my coaching business, this card, two worlds. I'm like, what? And then finally, when I started like letting go more of my coaching business and stepping more into what I really got excited about, which is this kind of thing, it stopped coming up. And then I got other things that would come up. So it's not always what we want to hear, but it's always good medicine. And that's what Lindsay Mack, that's kind of how she goes. That's her philosophy, which I really like. So you won't see that, especially with tarot in most places. It's like who's stabbing you in the back or like something bad that has happened. Not everyone, but you'll see a lot of that. So I love looking like, okay, how can this help me today? So let me give you an example of like how I would do that. Oh, and I can tell you about picking cards. The best way to pick cards, right, especially now, you're probably not going to the store to pick cards. So like the absolute best way would be to actually go to a store and like feel the cards. They usually have samples that you can like look at. We're not doing that right now, or most of us aren't doing that. So I like to like look at the pictures. If you go on Amazon, people post pretty good pictures on Amazon or YouTube of like the different cards. You can get a good sense just by the pictures. I will, because I use my pendulum, I will ask, like looking on Amazon, like, is that deck in alignment with me, or am I, is in my highest and best to buy that deck? Yes or no? I forgot, I was talking to one of you. I can do that for you too. Like if you're not sure which deck you want to get, I can look and ask your higher self through my pendulum, if you feel like that might help you. But this one I got, I was at Kripaula and I was there. It was a conference, and you kind of wanted something that you could move through, some sort of like thing that you wanted to move through. And I was trying to move through like not being so afraid of the dark. Let me just check that. Oh, it's my internet. Let me just, Christina, a box set on chakras. That's probably Oracle, yeah. Unless it's just like teaching. So Christina says she picked up a box set on chakras that came with a deck in it. Would those be considered Oracle? I would consider them Oracle. Anything that kind of gives you a little like wisdom or guidance, I say is an Oracle deck. I don't know if everyone would. Okay, Michelle, I will see you after. Yes, it's pendulum. Okay. Can you hear me fine, Christina? Yeah, okay. I'm using a fancy new microphone too, so I want to make sure I'm not like hitting it with my hair and stuff. So anyways, might sound silly, but when I was at the conference, I was really working on not being so afraid of the dark. And that was one thing I was really looking like into. And this deck was at the conference, and I just like picked it up and I like shuffled it or whatever. Let me show you how I shuffle while I'm talking about this. I want to see if I can, ooh. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so when I shuffle, and like I said, you can do it however you want. I'll tell you how some people shuffle. These are pretty big cards. So I like, actually, before I shuffle, I might as well do it the whole way. Oh, I'm breaking my thing. Before I shuffle, you can see my whole basement over there. So I like to check in with my cards first. I unhooked it when I was moving you. So I would say something like, okay, what message do you have for me today? If you want, you can also say either out loud or in your head who you want to connect with. So I could say, okay, I would really like a message from my higher self today about blank, or what guidance does my higher self have for me today? What does my soul want me to know? You could say, what do my angels want me to know? What do my spirit guides want me to know? Or you could say, okay, I want to connect to my spirit guides of highest truth and compassion. What message do you have for me? So, or the universe, love consciousness, God, whoever you want to connect with, you can also say that before you draw your cards. Typically, I feel like I personally am asking my spirit guides or my higher self, but it could be different for anybody. So whoever you connect with. Okay. So I would say that, okay, what message do you have for me today? Or what do I most need to know today? And then I like to, so I'm going to shuffle like this. And I set the intention that the card on top is going to be the card that's meant for me. So I might just do that a few times, as in my head, I'm just kind of like saying, okay, what I want my message about, or what guidance is for me today. And I'll just kind of like do this. And then I might like break a little piece off and put it over here. I might break a piece off. And then I'll shuffle. And then because I set the intention in my mind that the top card is for me, I just assume that I'm right or that whoever's helping me is right. So that's another part of all this, is like the cards will help you figure out how to trust yourself a little more, and just trust that you are seeing what you're meant to see. So mine is Believe. I love that card. But when I did this, when I was at Kripalu, I got a card that was literally, the thing in the book said something about being afraid of the dark. So whatever it was, it doesn't matter. But it said something about being afraid of the dark. And I was like, okay, those are my cards, because that's what I was working on. I was like, message heard, like it cannot be any more clear. There won't always be an obvious, like, hey, your head over your face or whatever message, but sometimes it is that obvious. Sometimes you might just be drawn to the cards because you think like they look nice, or they look like your kind of vibe. That's also a great like indication that they're for you. Like I personally like the more like kind of like pretty, like lovey looking cards. So most of mine are like that. This one maybe isn't so much, but I also like the kind of ancestor angel kind of thing. But some people will like the ones that kind of look more Halloween-y, like to me. And if that's your thing, that's awesome too. So I should probably check what time it is before I keep talking. Good, 5:30. Okay. I don't know if you know, I taught middle school math for 7 years. So like I'm used to teaching, but I'm also used to looking at the clock all the time. I'm like, I don't have a clock down here. Okay, so how to choose a deck. Just as quick side note, I put this in the things. Some people think you have to be gifted your first deck. Like it's like this big rule that I think used to kind of be around mostly tarot cards. You don't have to be gifted your deck unless you believe that. Then you go ahead and wait for a deck to come to you. But I personally don't think you have to be gifted your deck. So how to bond and take care of your deck. So there are a lot of different ways to do this. Some people will get a deck and they will carry it around with them for like 2 weeks. So it's a little weird now if you're just home, I guess. You don't need to like throw it in your purse and walk around your house. But maybe if you're going into work or something, you might want to do that, kind of keep it in your purse or keep it with you. People say it kind of like helps get your energy synced up with the energy of your cards. Some people will sleep with their deck under their pillow or on their nightstand. I've never personally done those things. I'm a really like light sleeper, like affected by things. Like I try to sleep with crystals near my bed and I can't. Here's the tower kind of card in this one, Crumbling. That's the card when it comes up, you're like, no, but it's so good for you at the same time. So what I like to do when I first get my cards is look and like feel every single one. So like I will like purposely like go through like one at a time. I'll read what it is. I'll like just like look at it, kind of like just like that I'm kind of the one that's touching it and like going through like, so I'll do that. I have what's it called, sage and Palo Santo, which so for smudging, or if you have incense, you can kind of like when you're looking at them. So I'll have my incense or whatever I want burning, and I will kind of like run them over the smoke as I'm looking at them. People think that's like a way of clearing your cards. If you can't do something like that at your house, maybe you have pets that are affected by smoke, or there's other people that live with you that you don't want to have to explain what you're doing. You can even have a candle lit and just the intention of the candle, like that you're bringing it over that to kind of like clear it. I've seen people even do this. The reason why you would clear it before you use it, by the way, is just if there's any other energies on it. So you want like only your own energies on it. So some people will fan them out like this over a candle, or even not if you don't have it. And I've seen people like hit it and just their intent. This is all about intention. Everything spiritual is about intention. So my intention would be, okay, I'm clearing any energies in these cards that are not serving me. And this looks like so silly right now, but, and you just kind of imagine that you're like letting it all fall out. That's the way. If you are trained in Reiki, you can clear them with Reiki. That is totally a thing that you can do. Even if you're not trained in Reiki, I do think we are all kind of like tapped in to be healers on some level with our energy. So even if you're not trained in Reiki, I do still think you can clear cards. You kind of like press them in your hands and just set your intention, like with my energy or with the energy of love or something like that. My intention is to clear these cards of any energies that aren't serving me and only have my own energies or only have love energies, something like that. You can clear them with the pendulum. I'm not going to go into that now because that's kind of like a lot, but I will talk about that in my pendulum course when that comes up. And then how to take care of your deck. The biggest thing to take care of your deck, I think, is just using it. So just using it, just saying like, I do say thank you to it, especially when I get a message that's like really powerful. Like if for me, I get kind of like chills. I don't know if any of you get something like that when you know something's like, whoa, okay, I'm listening. Like I'll get kind of like chills and I'm like, okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Or I'll try to say thank you, thank you, thank you, like at the end when I'm about to pull my card. Other things people like to do is putting them out like on the windowsill if it's going to be like a full moon. People think that clears the energy of the cards and that it kind of like charges them up, which is kind of neat. With most of this, it's really whatever you believe and put that intention can clear your cards, can charge your cards, depending who you want to talk to with your cards. Okay. Are there any questions that I kind of glossed over? I'm going to take a sip of water. Feel free to type them in. I will keep talking, but type your questions. And if you're watching on the replay, I guess I don't know where I want you to put your questions. If you're watching on the replay and it's in our Facebook group, put in the Facebook group. If you're watching on the replay and it's not in the Facebook group, you can email me. The email that I'm using right now would be amy, amy.m.dame, D-A-M-E, @gmail.com. And I will answer your questions. Okay, so what to ask of your cards. So I kind of already talked about what to ask. That's what I'll talk about next. Oh, that is a great question, Christina. Okay, so Christina asked, do you think it makes any difference when it comes to storing the cards in their initial packaging or the bags made for them? I think that's totally whatever feels right to you. So I personally keep mine in the boxes. Just because it's easier for me to store them. None of mine have come with bags though. If they came with bags, I might store them in the bags. A lot of people say the bags are nicer for them and like the energy. So I would totally say whatever feels right to you. I've even seen people who have them all out of their boxes and not in things like stacked places or like have special bags for them. I don't think you can go wrong with anything. So whatever feels right. That's a really good question though. That comes up. I've seen that in a lot of groups, like how to store my cards. I personally have them. So upstairs I have this like long dresser thing that was my grandma's, and the bottom whole drawer, it's like a really big drawer, is where I put all my cards and kind of any of this kind of stuff. And then on the top, I use that almost like an altar. So on the top, I have some plants. I have any crystals that I want out. If I was going to light incense, I would light it there. And then my cards for the day, or if I want to keep them up for longer, I have them like on there. So like for me, I kind of keep it all in the same space, and that feels really good. But yeah, bags are also awesome. So what I ask them. So I kind of talked about this. I like to ask questions in the present. So things that can help me now and moving forward. Sometimes I will ask about a past situation, but typically I'm looking at now and moving forward. So could I please have some guidance about visiting my parents this weekend? Or is there anything I need to know about visiting my parents this weekend? Or can I please have some guidance about my coaching business? Or a lot of times I just ask, what message do I need to see today? Or what am I going through? When I'm having just like a lot of emotions, like if I'm feeling anxiety or I'm feeling just like sadness and I don't know why, or I'm just feeling like really tired and I don't know why, I'll pull a card and ask, okay, what am I going through right now? What message is meant for me? What guidance can you show me right now? And I like to use if you have a pendulum, you can do this. If not, I can always talk about this in another time. I like to, sometimes when I pull a card and I'm like, what? Like, that's not even close to what I was asking about. Or like, I just can't figure out. It doesn't happen often, but sometimes I pull it and I'm like, well, that was not for me. And I will ask my pendulum, like, which is asking, in my mind, I'm asking my higher self or my spirit guides. And I'll say, like, is this card meant for me today? So if I'm not quite sure, I personally ask my pendulum if it's right for me. A lot of times I get a yes. And when that happens and I'm still like, why? Like, how? I'll leave it out on my altar on the dresser. And I'll leave it out it could be out for a week or two before I figure out like what that card meant. But usually in the next day or so, I'm like, oh, that's what that card meant. Oh, I saw a kitty. Yeah. But sometimes I will get, no, that card's not meant for me. And when I get a no, it's not meant for me, sometimes that means it's meant for someone else. So that there might be someone else I talked to that day. And I'm like, oh, I know that card was for you. And I'll send them a picture of it. But sometimes it's just, I don't know. It just, the shuffle got weird, or maybe I wasn't really like, when I was setting my intention for what my message wanted to be, maybe I wasn't super clear, or, maybe I just shuffled weird. Who knows? So that does happen sometimes. They don't make sense. And for how to interpret them, I kind of talked about this too, but I really like to look first at the picture. So like, let's do one. Do a little example. Okay. This is I really like this one, the Kyle Gray Angels and Ancestors. And the back is really pretty. Okay, so I might say, okay, what message do we all on this call need to hear? So what message do we all on this call need to hear? After this, I'm going to tell you how I think some other people shuffle too. And then sometimes I'll even say, okay, I'm going to shuffle one more time. And then that's going to be my answer. Just sometimes it makes me feel better knowing like, okay, that's going to be the end. Because like, I remember at the beginning being like, well, how long do I shuffle? Like, when do I know if I'm done? Or how do I know it's the right card? And I think that's where so much of, it's funny, I was just going to say the word trust and then trust was down there. That's where so much of the trust comes in. And this will teach you to trust yourself and to trust whoever you're working with, because the more you do it, you'll just be like, well, I know it's going to be the right answer. Or the more times you get a card and you're like, whoa, that's like on point. Or you send it to someone and they're like, yep, that's what I'm going through. The more times that happens, it'll just keep showing you like to just trust whatever you're shuffling or pulling is for you. So we just got the Oracle, wait for important information. Just funny. This is what I posted the other day in the group too. That's the other kind of fun thing is like when you do get the same cards over and over, it's like, sometimes I'm just like, okay, I'm listening. Especially if you've had the cards for a long time. Like I was looking through this deck the other day because I was pulling cards for someone else. She got a card, like I've had this for years. I've probably used this one like one a day for 2 years. And then I've had it for more than that. And there are still cards in here I have never once pulled for myself. I pulled one for a girl the other day, and it was a card I've never even seen, like for me. So it's like, it's funny, wherever you are in your journey at that time, like you'll get a lot of the cards keep coming up and then they'll kind of go away as you move on to like another thing. But anyway, so the first thing I like to do is look at the card, And the oracle cards are kind of fun because a lot of times they have words on them, which is kind of helpful. So you can kind of read the words and you're kind of thinking like what it might mean to you. You might look at the picture, or like, what does it mean to you? And then after I kind of think, okay, what I think this might mean, then I'll open up the little booklet and find it. And these little booklets will also have information on how the person who made the cards intended them to be used. So like that other one I have, the Rebecca Candle, this one, the Starseed one, she made the deck like, I mean, the box kind of like fancy. And in here, she has like a bunch of different spreads, which is just meaning pulling more than one card or card for a reason. Where like she made this, I think you can see that. She made this, so basically you can do different like spreads and like do different things, which is always fun to play around with too. But for starting out, I really just do like that's what I do most, even not starting out, is just the one card pull, what I meant to see for today or what messages for me. But the way she says that you, these cards are intended to be used, and they, yeah, well, that's funny, I just got that card too, is basically you shuffle them however you want to shuffle them. And then she says that you put them in 3 piles, kind of like down a little low, put them in 3 piles and then pile them up in whatever way feels right. And then it's the top card. Actually, no, does she? Yeah, she says that's one way. And then she also says a way where you line them out, spread them all out. There you go. You spread them all out and then you pick whatever card. So I personally, I'm one that's like, I don't want to worry. For me, it's not worry. I don't want to spend the extra energy wondering, oh my, is this the card? Like, did I pick the right card? Is there a right card? So I don't personally like laying them all out and picking. Some people do, and that's totally fine, because it's probably, maybe it's more like fun to see them all and see what your hand's drawn to. Some people I know, when they spread them out, they'll say they feel almost like a different sensation in their hand over when it's like the right card. Maybe it's cold, maybe it's hot, maybe it's a tingling. That doesn't happen for me. So that's why I like shuffling and just with the intention that it's going to be the top card. But whatever feels right to you is totally right. So even with this deck, even though she says to make them in piles and spread them out, I did do that for a little while, but then I just didn't like how it felt. So I set the intention that just the top card is always my card. I just like that. But you can do spreads. So I think the easiest thing to do is just the one card. What am I meant to see? What's my message? What guidance is for me? And then if you did want to do a spread, I know with these, when I first got them, I used to always do like a past, present, future spread, which is 3 cards. And that was kind of fun, just looking at even like in my life, like, okay, I want to do a past, present, future spread of my life, what's going on right now. And then when you set that intention, like, let's pretend I shuffled these already with that intention. And then I would just assume that meant, okay, the first card is past, the next card is present, the next card is future. And then you look at it and kind of see where you were in your life, where you're moving now, and where you're going. That was kind of fun to do for a while. I remember doing that, or like, where was I? Where am I now? Where am I going in my relationship with fill in the blank, like that. I remember doing that a few times too. There are so many spreads. If you go on just Google and you type in, there are like full moon spreads, there are spreads for love, there's spreads for anything. And that just means when you're shuffling, you set the intention for a specific spread. And that just means you put them in like a certain place, depending what the spread is. And when you flip them over, each spot refers to something specific. And most of your card decks, most of your, whatever these called, booklets, will give you sample spreads, which is kind of neat for each one. course I don't see it in this one, but which is like just fun to play around with. But when I'm doing just my day-to-day, like if I'm not just like playing with my deck for fun, I'm just asking really the one question. See if I missed anything on my notes. Okay, any questions before I finish up? Oh, we're doing good on time. I feel like I'm talking so fast because I was nervous we weren't going to get to everything. It's also totally fine if no one has a question now. Maybe that means I'll have time to show you more of the decks. Is there anything else you need to know? You can also clear decks or charge them with crystals if you're into that. This is selenite. They're super cheap. They sell them in wands. You can get them like this. You can buy them in like bigger sticks, flat like ruler sticks. It's funny because I have this, not because I knew it was for clearing. I have this from like forever ago. My oldest like had he was just afraid of the dark and whatever he saw in the dark. So I bought him this as like, I told him it's like a magic wand to like keep things away, which is funny because it is clearing. But some people will like clear their cards with selenite or their body. You could put a crystal that you think is charging on it. You could put a crystal just if you wanted it to like soak up the vibration of that crystal. I think that's all I really wanted to tell you. So before I just show you some more of my cards, so I am going to raffle off. I want to do this while at least tell you so I can always put your names down. So I'm just finishing up my 6 weeks of clearing sessions. So what I do in them, this is not for me telling you to pay me for this. I'm going to raffle off 2 20-minute Reiki clearing sessions, but I want to tell you what they are to make sure you don't like opt into something that you don't want. So it's 20 minutes. There are 2 different kinds. So I'm going to offer one of each kind. And one is live, like via video chat like this. So we're both on at the same time. The other is over like Messenger when we're not live at the same time. So I would kind of talk to you ahead of time what you want to work on. I would do it, and then you would create like the quiet space so you can kind of receive everything that I worked on. During that time, things we can do are straightforward, normal Reiki healing, which is just sending healing Reiki to whatever you feel like you most need. And if you're not sure, I can look into that for you using my pendulum. And if you want, I also do clearing. So I can clear things, really any clearing you want to work on, whether it's a physical pain that you're feeling, we can work on clearing that, getting to the root cause of whatever is causing you the physical symptoms. If there's an emotional block that you feel like you need cleared away, if you believe in past lives and you feel like there's something from a past life that's affecting your current life, I can work on clearing and sending healing to that. Or I can check in on if your struggle in this life is past life related. That's come up a few times in my sessions where they didn't realize that, but it was. And when we cleared that, that helped. We can clear energy cords. So any person that you have a relationship, person, thing, animal, anything that you have had a relationship with, you have an energetic like connection with, called an energy cord. I can work on clearing or dissolving that. If it's a cord if it's a cord of someone or something you don't want to be attached to anymore, we can work on dissolving it. If it's someone like your spouse and you want to stay with them, we can work on clearing it and sending healing to it. There's so many things we can do in 20 minutes. So if you are interested, I'll write it down and then I'll let you know after. I won't do it on the call because I want to check in with my guides of above or next to us, who knows where they are, of who to offer it to. But if you are interested in the live one, like the face-to-face one, maybe I'm going to have you, maybe I'll have you just message me on Messenger. So you don't have to put it in the chat right now. So message me on Messenger if you want to go into the, for me, raffling off the 20-minute live Reiki clearing healing when it's like this, over like a FaceTime or a Zoom, or actually I've been using just Facebook Messenger for that, or Facebook video. And if you'd rather do it with over Messenger when we're not live, send me that. So just like raffle live session or raffle Messenger session or something like that. And I will figure that out. I'm super excited. When that thought popped into my head, which I know someone put there. Yeah, so send me a message on Facebook if you would want one of those. Like I said, I'm giving 2 away for free, just for fun. Okay, so any other questions before I spend like 8 minutes showing you my decks that I haven't showed you yet? I should probably say, if you're watching the recording, I'm sorry, but the raffle doesn't include you. I was doing that just for the people who were on the live Zoom chat. But I do those sessions in normal life too, if you wanted more info on that. Okay, so I want to show you this one. Oh, you know what? I'm going to show you this because this is different than all the other ones. Let me just make sure there's no chat before okay. So this one, I've posted this on Facebook a few times. The universe has your back. This is more of like an affirmation deck. So, which is awesome. It's just different than like a typical oracle deck. So these have like affirmations on them. They're really pretty. I do think they're really good. I feel like saying they're an affirmation deck makes it seem like less, but like that one. So it's like, instead of praying for an outcome, I pray for the highest good for all. So they're deep affirmations. And I do, but it's different than an oracle deck where this is just like a nice thing to, just like a nice thing to think about. So this gives you like good things to think about, or if you're like just kind of having like a really tough day, this can be nice to like pull one from here, and it's like straight and to the point. Like, the moment I realign with love, clear direction is presented to me. Happiness is my birthright. My happiness is a direct reflection of my level of faith in the universe. So they're just like nice, deep affirmations, but it's not something to like really like dive deep into. It also doesn't come with a booklet because the affirmation just is what the card is. I have that, and then that compared to like something like this. This one's really pretty. This one I bought off Amazon because it was really pretty. And it had butterflies on the back, which I love. So this would be like, okay, so you have like this picture that you really can do a lot of like looking at, and it says expansion. And then so I can really like be thinking like, oh, these two people are holding hands, like someone's reaching her hand out to someone else. You know, there's flowers, there's a hummingbird, even like maybe like a hummingbird is a sign for you. Like maybe it's a sign that your grandmother's around, or maybe it's like you believe in spirit animals and that's your spirit animal sign. And like you pull this card and there's like a hummingbird right on there. To you, that might mean like, wow, my grandmother is like saying it's all going to be okay. Like this is, or maybe it's the universe saying you're on the right track or something like that. So you might read it like that. And I might look at it like, oh, she's reaching her hand out to him. You know, she's receiving love, or she's receiving help, or she's working together with something. So like, I like that there's really like stuff to decipher on the card. And then you can go and read the meaning, and it's like, it just takes it to a whole new level. I won't read the whole thing, but, you know, it's like a whole little paragraph, and I think you just like dive deeper into, okay, what does this mean to me? What does this mean to me? And kind of like putting it all together. I also really like, I've started pulling like one, you don't, if you're just getting into this, this is not something you would do. But if you have like a few decks, I really like pulling like one from like 5 decks and putting them all up on like my dresser on the altar. And then you can see like how they go together. So it kind of makes a bigger story. So that's kind of, I think, why a lot of people like tarot cards, because it can create a bigger story of like what's happening. Where if you have more than one deck of the oracle cards, you can create that bigger story. And if there's a message that like really wants to come through, it will like come through. Like today, I pulled maybe five from 5 different decks probably, and like 3 of the decks had like images of flowers all over them. And today I like, in the middle of the day, I had picked flowers from outside and like put them in, and they were the same flower that was on the picture of the deck I got. So it was just like nice, like assurance, like to see when they go together. So that's always kind of fun. The chat's so different on my phone. Oh yeah, that's a great question. Would you keep a journal of your pulls? So I haven't been, however, I highly recommend it. It's like a do as I say, not as I do thing. When I was first starting, when I really was using just this deck, I have a journal of like, I did it every day, and I have a journal of all my pulls and kind of like what I thought it meant. And it was super helpful because it helped me see the patterns. Like for instance, when that tree kept coming up, like the lightning bolt, lightning bolt, lightning bolt. It's like every time I'm asking about Beachbody coaching, like that was really helpful to see. It's also, I think, would be really awesome to be able to look back and be like, oh yeah, that came up for that. Or, oh, it's like, I think it's a neat way to kind of see what's going on in your life too. It's like a different kind of journal to see like what cards keep getting pulled. So I totally recommend keeping a journal of your pulls. I, however, cannot say I'm doing that right now, but I do think that's an awesome idea, especially when you first have a deck and you're really like learning it. Because you'll notice there'll be certain cards that come up for you for a certain reason that doesn't match the deck book. But when you see it, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That's there again. Okay. I have yoga at 6, so I am going to say goodbye, but thank you. I just hit you, made you all funny. Thank you for being here. This was super fun. I've been wanting to kind of share all this for a while. My guides have been like, do it like for so long. So thank you for being here, for giving me the space to kind of share with you what I've learned. If you have questions, if I didn't cover anything or I said something you're like not really sure, or if you need help picking a deck, I'm totally available to help you pick your deck. Definitely reach out to me, send me a message, or if you're in the Facebook group, I'm hoping I can post this recording in the Facebook group, and then you could leave it under there or direct message me or email me. Yeah, so thank you. Have a great Monday night. I know what day it is. And I'll see you all on the internet. Bye. Actually, I should read my comment before I go. Yes, I will see you all. Bye for real.